Good morning, everybody. Lovely, thank you, just as if by magic. So I'm doing a very lightning talk, 10 minutes today on accessible documents. So I've named my presentation, The Art of Accessibility, Making Documents Delightfully Inclusive. So what am I going to cover in 10 minutes? It's a tall order to talk about document accessibility in 10. We're going to talk about why it matters first. A lot of people don't think about documents necessarily when they think about accessibility, so I'm going to tell you why. And then I'm going to talk about choosing the right format and why that is really important. And I will finish on the rule of 3, leaving you with 3 top tips on document accessibility. Who am I, first of all? So Michelle did a nice job of introducing me, but my name is Samantha Merrett. I work at the Ministry of Justice in the digital accessibility team. There is a picture on the slide of me with my beautiful pet dog, Bella. She's a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. She's standing on my shoulders. She comes up to my waist, and she's a pretty big girl, but she is the love of my life. But that is enough. Why do accessible documents matter? So what is it, first of all? It's all well and good talking about how to make them accessible, but it's important to know what that actually means. Why are we creating content if we don't want it to be read and understood by everybody? And that is why accessible documents matter. Everybody should have the same opportunity to access and understand that information, and that is why creating accessible documents is really, really important. So on the screen, I have a screenshot of a document. It's a fake document that I've just created as an example. It's on the surface might look like a perfect document. It's got some headings in there visually maybe, it's got some good sections in there, some bullet points, it's got a table, might look quite accessible on the outset. Actually, behind the scenes, it's not accessible at all. It actually doesn't have any headings in it. So for a screen reader user, they would not know there's any headings in that document at all. It has no structure, and it would be very, very difficult to navigate through. Also, there's some formatting in there that we don't really like. There's capital letters. We tend not to write in all capital letters. It doesn't come across very well. There's underlined text that isn't a link. There's italic text that is difficult to read sometimes. And there's also a table at the bottom that uses colour alone to indicate progress, which we all know, if we work in accessibility, is not best practice. And I cheated slightly because I didn't show you the second page, but on the second page of this document, there is also a lovely infographic. It's a flow chart. It's pretty complex. There's lots of different paths and lots of different avenues that infographic goes around. And actually, it's going to be very, very difficult to explain in alternative text. So at first glance, that document looked all right. But actually, when we kind of peel the cover back, there's a lot to kind of fix behind the scenes. So that's why accessible documents matter. So let's talk about how we do that. Choosing the right format. There's a Toy Story meme on this slide. It said bad choices everywhere. That is very, very true. When it comes to accessible documents, it's really easy in some respects to make documents accessible, but you've got to make sure you're using the right one in the right way. Today I'm just going to cover spreadsheets, documents and presentations, and I put PDF on there and then I crossed it out because unfortunately I've got 10 minutes today, so for all your sake I don't have time to go through PDFs, which I think we're all kind of grateful for. So PowerPoints, spreadsheets and documents. PowerPoints for presentations only. I work in a government department and we tend to love to create a PowerPoint presentation and then we export it to a PDF and we send it round for our board members to read. That is not an accessible use of a PowerPoint presentation. It should be used for visual presentations only. Spreadsheets, these tend to be better well used. They're kind of just for storing data, analysing numbers, that kind of thing. We tend to use those in the right way, but some people use them for forms and things, and that's not really what a spreadsheet's for. And then finally, Word documents, or documents in general, used for everything else. We have a little saying. I run a document accessibility group in government, and we have a little quote that we like to say. If it's made in Word, it can stay in Word. And that's how we tend to like to tell people to make documents accessible. The minute you try and export it into another format, you can kind of cause some problems. So, the rule of 3. And I only have time for 3 tips today, so I've picked my top 3. Headings. Headings are the backbone of any document. If you want to make a document accessible, make sure it has properly formatted headings. How do you do that? You don't just make it size 26, colour it in a different colour and make it bold. Use styles. For anyone who's not familiar with Word or haven't used Word very much, it's similar in all other programs if you're not using Microsoft. There are a styles pane at the top of Word and you can choose your heading order. The first heading in your document should be 1, and then from then on you can go in a sequential order from 2 to 17 if you want to, but I'd keep it to 2 to 4 if you can in terms of heading orders. Second rule, alternative text. I think we're probably, if you work in accessibility, you've heard about alternative text before. It's quite a well-used tool, but it's really important in documents. The sentence on the slide says for all images most of the time, because sometimes, and it is rare, images are just decorative, and that's okay, but it's quite rare that we mark them as decorative. We tend to always like to give a description, even if it's a simple one. If you haven't heard of alternative text before, you don't know what it is, in simple terms, it's describing non-text content to someone who might not be able to see it. That could be someone on a slow internet connection, or it could be someone using a screen reader. So we always make sure we add alternative text to our images. Only tell them what they need to know. I've worked with teams before who go very literal, a bit like catchphrase. They say exactly what they can see, and that's absolutely fine, but sometimes it's just cognitive load we don't need. Make it really concise and make it essential for what you're talking about in your document. What's good and bad alternative text? So bad alternative text would be the image file name. So something like 342 JPEG. Doesn't tell the user absolutely anything, it's pointless, you might as well not have anything in the box at all. Okay, alternative text for the image I have on this slide would be something along the lines of dog with its mouth wide open. It's a literal description, that is what the picture is of, but actually it goes further than that. Alternative text can convey emotion, it can convey humour, it can convey any kind of emotion you want depending on what context you're using it in. On this slide I have a picture of a dog, but it's actually kind of funny, it might make you smile, and I'd like a screen reader user to get that same sentiment from the image. So my alternative text might read, a Great Dane with its mouth wide open and its lips flopping to one side, catching a treat mid-air. That's slightly better alt text. It conveys humour and might make someone smile, which is the purpose of that image. So just think about how you write it in your documents. And my third and final rule are tables. Tables must have a logical order and they must be clearly defined in their structure. It's really important we make sure our tables are accessible. How do we do that? There are some simple things you can do with tables just to make sure you're making them accessible. Make sure you have a header row. Seems quite obvious. We don't always mark our tables with a header row. We just build a table and hope that people assume the first row is the header. Don't split or merge cells. Make sure your table has a logical structure and it follows that structure throughout. Don't split your table across pages without repeating the header row at the top. It can get quite confusing. Add a title and alternative text if you can. So yes, you can add alternative text to a table. It's not a necessity always, but it's good practice if your table is complex or you want to add a little bit more description to it. And check you can tab through your table in a logical order. It's a nice way to just double check at the end that your table is accessible. Please do not add tables as images into documents. We have seen it before where people screenshot a table and then paste it in. As we've seen with alternative text, if you try and describe that table in a few sentences, I can guarantee you it's going to be quite tricky. There is a tables property box, again in Word, but other programs have it too, where you can add that title and that alternative text if you'd like to. Please explore that box. You'll find the option there to make sure you've marked your header row, etc. And that's where all your accessible features live. I couldn't just leave you with 3, even though I only had 10 minutes to run this presentation, so some few bonus tips for you to end. Designing for neurodiversity in documents is often overlooked. We tend to go very much for screen reader users and people using assistive technology, which is really important, of course. But actually, some of the more simple things that we might take for granted, using plain English, the content itself should be accessible, not just the way we're formatting it. Giving links a descriptive name. Again, we see it a lot in PowerPoint presentations. People stick their URLs in there, and that's not helpful for anybody. Don't use italics or underline. We covered that in our example, but again, sometimes formatting is overlooked in documents and people go a little bit wild. And colour, that's also a formatting technique. People often make their titles a different colour, or they might change the colour of their links, but actually on the white background of your document, that is not accessible either. So, some final thoughts from me. Quotes to remember, I've got 2 for you. Remember that one I said earlier? If it's made in Word, it can stay in Word. And if your document is not accessible, then I'm sorry, it's just not finished yet. and you need to spend a little bit more time making sure you're building it in an accessible way. So thank you very much. You can scan that QR code or email me on samantha.merrett@justice.gov.uk. Thank you very much.